Hi, if this channel is new to you, then you are welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber, you are also welcome. John recorded Imagine on piano. In this lesson, you will learn to play the song on the guitar. The lesson is presented in tablature or tab. Don't worry if you don't know how to read tablature or tab. In this lesson, you will also learn how to read tablature or tab. John is an icon, and so his song Imagine. But for me, his song is his masterpiece. If Leonardo da Vinci has Mona Lisa, John has Imagine. The song is in the form of A B. The verses, verse 1, 2, and 3 as section A, and the refrain as section B. So in terms of A and B, the song structure is in the form of A B A B. In terms of parts of the song, we have the intro followed by verse 1, an A, and then verse 2, another A, and it's followed by refrain, which is a B. Then it continues to verse 3, another A, and it goes back to refrain, which is a B. In our study, we'll only use verse 1, as how you play the other verses is exactly the same as verse 1, and the refrain. Verses are actually played in the style of arpeggios, playing the chords broken. Instead of strumming chords, we pick the strings individually. So our right hand technique is finger picking. For the refrain, the chords are strummed. So our right hand technique is strumming. Though you see music notation in the music sheet, this lesson is for tab reading. Let's begin by learning the intro. Before we proceed to the lesson, let's have a review first of the parts of the guitar that are involved in this lesson, specifically the fretboard. Since this is the fretboard, these spaces are called frets, as these metal wires are the fret wires. And so this space is the first fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret, and so on. And for the strings, the numbering is this: number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you want to learn more about the parts of the guitar, click this link for that lesson. As I have mentioned earlier, verses are finger picking and refrain strumming. So this song involves two right hand techniques, and these are finger picking and strumming. The intro of the song is also finger picking. So let's discuss finger picking first. Finger picking requires us to use the right hand fingers differently as compared to strumming. When you strum a chord, you just brush the strings either with your right hand thumb or your index finger. But for finger picking, you are going to use your fingers individually, as we will be picking strings individually. So let me discuss with you first the notation of the right hand fingers. This is the thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and small finger or pinky. But for this song, we'll be using mostly our thumb, index finger, and the middle finger. For finger picking, each of the right hand fingers have string assignments. For this song, or in most of the songs, we seldom use the small finger. It's mostly these three fingers and the thumb. The right hand thumb is assigned to pick the sixth, the fifth, and the fourth strings downward. And the index finger is assigned to pick the third string upward. The middle finger is assigned to pick the second string upward. And the ring finger is assigned to pick the first string upward. So your right hand must assume this position. Your fingers must be arched and the tip of your fingers are on the strings so that you'd be able to pick them accurately. And the thumb is the one that keeps moving from 6th to 5th to 4th strings. It depends upon the chord that you're playing. So you have to practice your right hand doing this motion, the plucking motion. Now let's learn the chords that are to be played broken for the intro of the song. You see two chords, C add 9 and F major 7/C. Let's talk about the first chord first, the C add 9. C add 9 is actually a C major chord with the ninth note of the major scale in key of C added to form that chord. And if you are familiar to C major chord, it is this shape. Now C add 9 is with the ninth note added to this chord. And that would mean you need one more finger, which is actually your pinky or small finger, to play the second string at third fret. So right here is the sound. C major chord is this one, but C add ninth is with this note, this one, added, and this would be the sound. It's actually taking place what your index finger is playing. So instead of playing the second string that is played by your index finger at first fret, now you have your pinky or small finger pressing the second string at third fret. So you can actually position your fingers like this for C add 9. But if you're familiar with C major, you simply add your pinky or small finger on the second string at third fret and you have C add 9. And by the way, if you are not familiar at reading chord diagrams, you may click this link for that lesson. Now, let's look at the tablature. A tablature is just a representation of the fretboard of the guitar. This is the fretboard. And the 6 lines that you see on the tablature are actually the 6 strings of the guitar. If you hold your guitar this way, and you look down on the strings of their guitar, that's actually what the tablature represents. The bottom line on the tab is the 6th string. The line next to that is the 5th string, and the line next to that is the 4th, and then the 3rd, the 2nd, and the top line is the 1st string. And the numbers that you see, they tell you at which fret you are going to play those strings. Now, let's look at the first set of numbers that are lined up. You see 303. There are 2 3s and 1 0. Let's consider first the 3 at the bottom. That tells you to play the 5th string at 3rd fret. So this one here, as this is the 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. And since this is the 5th string, so you have to play that string at 3rd fret. So this one. Then the next number that we see is 0 on the line, which represents the 3rd string. This is the 3rd string. And since there's a 0 number on that line, it tells you to just play the string, which is the 3rd string, open. You're not pressing it at any fret, as 0 represents no fret at all. So just play the string open. And then the last number, the next number 3, is on that line, which represents the 2nd string. And the number there tells you to play the 2nd string at 3rd fret. So here. So that's how you read tablature. And since those numbers are lined up, in music, you read notes from left to right. So as you move from one note to the next, you play the music. Since those numbers, which actually represent notes, they are lined up, that means they'll have to happen at the same time. So this sound, which is playing the 5th string at 3rd fret, and this sound playing the 3rd string open, and this sound playing the 2nd string at 3rd fret, they all must ring together at the same time as they are lined up. So that means if I'm going to hold the guitar properly, I would need 2 fingers to do that. I may use my index finger to play the 5th string at 3rd fret and my middle finger to play the 2nd string at 3rd fret. So these sounds must ring at the same time. And for that to happen, I need my right hand thumb, my index finger, and my middle finger to play those strings. Since the thumb is assigned to play the 6th, the 5th, and the 4th strings, but for this set of numbers, we are not playing the 6th, we are not playing the 4th, but we are playing the 5th string. So I would have my thumb to play the 5th string. And then earlier we have discussed the assignments of the other fingers, index finger picking up the 3rd string and the middle finger on the 2nd string. So therefore, for that set of numbers, I would need to use my thumb, index finger, and middle finger and play them on their respective strings. And since they are lined up, that means I'll have to pick these strings all together at the same time. So it's going to be like this. So that set of numbers, when played, it should sound like this. Not this way, not that way, as that would be playing those strings one after the other. But since those numbers are lined up, they are not written one after the other. If they are written one after the other, like 3 and then 0 and then 3, then it goes like this. But they are lined up, that means they must happen together and at the same time. So you have to pick them at the same time. So that's how to read the tablature. But if you look at the diagram on top of that, you see C add 9. If you read the diagram, you will position your fingers this way. As this is C major chord, and C add 9 is simply having your pinky or small finger on the second string at 3rd fret. So all you have to do is just position your fingers for that chord. That's the reason why I have those diagrams on top of the tablature, to give you an idea of the chords involved. And all you have to do is just play the strings accordingly based on the numbers on the tablature. So with left hand fingers positioned for a particular chord, in this case it's C add 9, so I would have my ring finger on the 5th string at 3rd fret, my middle finger on the 4th string at 2nd fret, and I would have my index finger on the 2nd string at 1st fret. But this will actually be ignored, as for C add 9, you need this note, the 2nd string at 3rd fret. You can actually leave out the position of your index finger and just leave these 3 fingers. But if you are familiar with C major chord, you may start with C major chord and then add your pinky there, then it will be easier to move also. So you may keep your index finger there. Just remember that for C add 9, you have your pinky or small finger on the 2nd string at 3rd fret. So all you have to do is just pick those strings. We are not playing the 4th string, and we are not playing the 1st string. So that's it for the first set of numbers. And then right after that, you see a number, which is number 2, and it's on a line that represents the 4th string. And this is the 4th string. And the number tells you at which fret to play the 4th string. That means at 2nd fret. And if you look at your fingers, you already have your middle finger on the 4th string at 2nd fret, as that's part of the chord C add 9. So all you have to do is, from playing the first set of numbers 303, just move to the next number, which is number 2 on that string. Just play it separately. So again, so it goes like this. There. Now referring back to the tablature, that chord C add 9th begins the song. It's on the very first measure of the song. The song is in 4/4 time signature, so you have to count up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 beats in each measure, or 4 counts in each measure. So you have to count up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you look at the set of numbers that are lined up, those numbers 303, they appear 3 times in that measure. They actually happen at count 1, at count 2, and at count 3. So if we're going to play with counting, and our tempo is 1, 2, 3, 4, it's gonna sound like this. 1, 2, 3. But at count 4, you see still lined up numbers, but with different number combinations. You see 300. So let's talk about that later. Let's talk about the lined up numbers made up of 303 first, as they appear at count 1, at count 2, and at count 3. And the number 2s that are on the 4th string, they happen in between those beat counts. So in this case, you'll have to do 8-note counting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So at count 1, you have the first line of numbers consisting of 303. And then it's followed by 4th string played at 2nd fret. And then 303 at count number 2. It's followed by 4th string played at 2nd fret. And then the next lined up numbers consisting of 303 at count 3. And then it's followed by 4th string played at 2nd fret. And on 8-note counting, it's gonna sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and. So that's how you're gonna play that part. But at count number 4, you have the last lined up numbers for that measure. We have 300. It's still the 5th string at 3rd fret, as that what number 3 tells you. But this time, you still have the 3rd string played open, but the 2nd string, instead of a number 3 there, now it's a 0. Now that tells you that you'll have to play the 2nd string open. So that means you'll have to let go of your pinky, right? This will be the sound at count 4. So again, from count 1, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's how you play the lined up numbers at count 4. And then, right after that lined up numbers at count 4, you see a single number, 1. And it's on a line that represents the 2nd string. And the number 1 there tells you to play the 2nd string at 1st fret. So this will be the sound. So from an open 2nd string, right at count 4, you'll have to play the same string at 1st fret. So it's gonna sound like this. If we start from count 1, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. As that happens between count 4 of the first measure and count 1 on the second measure. So you're gonna play it on the end. So it's gonna be something like this. And 2 and 3 and 4 and the finger that you're going to use to play that last sound on the first measure is of course the assigned finger to that, which is your middle finger, as the middle finger is assigned on the 2nd string. So it's gonna be like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there. But on the measure you see a curved line. It's actually a musical symbol for slur. It connects two sounds with two different pitches. So the first sound is the 2nd string played open, which happened at count 4, which is part of the lined up numbers 300. And then it's followed by playing the same string at 1st fret, but both numbers are slurred. That means they must run into one another. In music, it's actually what we call legato. That means you must connect the two sounds. It should run into one another, like it's continuous from one sound to the next. So instead of having this sound, you actually have this sound. And for guitar, we actually accomplish that by applying a left hand technique, which what we call hammer on. So at count 4, while the 2nd string is ringing, when we get to N, that's when you hammer on the 2nd string at 1st fret. So it goes like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there, right? But this thing, the left hand technique hammer on, using your left hand fingers to create the second sound, is not an easy thing to do. So if you're having difficulty doing that, you can just simply ignore that tie there. Just pick the string one more time for the second sound. So what I mean is there. So this time, you're going to have your middle finger work for an extra time to create that sound. With legato, the middle finger doesn't have to do that, as when the middle finger rang it at count 4, while it's ringing, it's the index finger of the left hand that produces the second sound. So there. But like what I said, this left hand technique, hammer on, is not an easy thing to do for beginner. Then you may have to omit that technique and just play the second string one more time with your middle finger. So it's gonna be like this. So without the left hand technique, hammer on, or the legato technique, we can play it this way. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So as a recap for the first measure, with legato or slur, it goes like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... And if you want to ignore the legato or the hammer on, it's gonna be like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... There, you just learned how to play the first measure of the intro. On the second measure, you see another chord, which is F major 7 slash C. Usually, chord diagrams are shown with the knot on top, or meaning the diagram is vertical. But for the sake of clarity and for easy interpretation of the chord diagrams, I have it rotated there. So looking at the diagram, you see 4 dots. You have one dot on the second string at first fret here, another one on the third string at second fret, and another dot on the fourth string at third fret, and lastly, another dot on the fifth string at third fret. So you have 2 dots at third fret, and these will be the fingerings for F major 7 slash C. Actually, F major 7 is just with the shape. The fifth string is dead, as well as the sixth, so you're only playing 4 strings. But for this song, John Lennon has this bass note that is played after this chord. That's the reason why you have the slash C after the chord name F major 7. The slash C there tells you to play a note that is going to be the bass note for that chord. And the fifth string played the third fret. That is the bass note that John Lennon played for this chord F major 7. So we call it F major 7 slash C, as this note is the bass note C. So again, you see numbers that are lined up, 1, 2, 3. So that means you're going to play at the same time the second string at first fret, third string at second fret, and the fourth string at third fret. So you're going to play them at the same time. And this time your thumb plays the fourth string, and you still have your index finger on the third string and middle finger on the second string. So this way. And you see those lined up numbers appearing 3 times in that measure. And that happens at count 1, at count 2, and at count 3. And in between those counts, you have a single number 3 on the fifth string. That means you have to play the fifth string at third fret. And that's the reason why I have that chord F major 7 slash C, so that right at the start you already have all your fingers there. All you have to do is just pick the strings accordingly. So at count 1, and between counts 1 and 2, at count 2, and between counts 2 and 3, at count 3, and between counts 3 and 4. So if I'm going to play that sequence at 8-note counting, it's gonna sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and there. But beginning at count 4, now you have a series of 3 notes. You have 2, 3, and then 0. 2 numbers on the same line, and that represents the third string. The first one is playing the string at second fret, and with a chord, you already have your finger there, your middle finger on the third string at second fret. So you don't have to break the shape of your chord. You can keep all 4 fingers there. So all you have to do is when you get to count 4, you just pick those three notes individually or separately. We'll begin with the one at count 4, which is a number 2 on that line represents the third string, played at second fret, and you have your middle finger to do that. Just pick that string, the third string, with your index finger. And then it's followed by number 3 on the same line. That means playing the same string at third fret. Now in that case, we need one finger to play the same string at third fret. So all we can do is position or move your pinky to third fret on the third string. So from fifth string, your pinky or small finger has to move to third string at third fret. So that sequence 2, 3 goes like this. 2, 3, and then the last note on that measure is a 0 on a line that represents the second string. That means we have to let go of the index finger on the second string. So that sequence of 2, 3, 0 goes like this. So if I'm going to play the second measure beginning at count 1, it's gonna sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there. So if I play the whole intro for 2 measures, it's gonna sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there. So that's the intro. But it's not complete. The intro is actually 4 measures long with the first and second measures repeated. That's why you have the repeat sign there. That means you repeat the first 2 measures. So the whole intro sounds like this at a slower tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 that's it. So that's the intro of the song. That's just for the intro of the song. Click this card to learn how to play the verses and refrain.